Welcome to the Daily Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I am Kyle McKeown. You can find me on Twitter at RotoKyleNBA. And I am joined tonight, like every night, by Marc Roberts. You can find on Twitter at Marc F. Roberts, and that's Mark with a C, like Marc Gasol. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can probably already see we are hanging out on ESPN. We're going to do an auction mock draft tonight. The way the mock drafts work on ESPN, you can't really choose whether or not you're going to do head-to-head type style draft or a rotisserie draft. So we're just going with the assumption that this is a head-to-head auction, and we're going to use our head-to-head rankings and head-to-head auction values to talk about this as we go through. I'm pretty pumped here, Mark.
You can tell by your voice.
Thanks. I'm also feeling way better today than I've felt over the past week, so I have more energy. So that's good too. So I'm glad you can hear that. Do you what do we want to start here? We want to start talking about some auction strategy. We got about a minute and a half before the draft begins. We're assuming
there's a guy in here that has recognized your name but not mine, and he's asking me if I think that you're really Kyle McKeown or just an imposter.
And I'm typing to him to tell him that we're really recording this for the podcast right now. So for auction, for auction drafts, I'm so sorry to anybody watching this because I'm starting to get enveloped in what we're about to start here in this auction. You've got to have a good idea of what you're going to pay for players. Now, this is a standard ESPN league, so you're going to have 13 roster spots that you have to fill. You're only filling one center position. Not that matters that much. You got 3 utility spots, 3 bench spots. If this is a standard head-to-head league with playoffs, and you're using a daily roster setup where you have to set your lineup every single day, I'm gonna want to make sure that I have a fully stacked roster. So I'm gonna try and spread out my money during this draft, and I'm going to try and have great guys from my first player all the way through all on my bench players too, because I want the guys that I'm rotating in to be contributing a lot on those days. If I was playing and we just had the draft music go off in their ears really loud. If we were playing in a weekly lineups type league where you set your lineup for the week, about to see who the first nominated player is here, I would want to just make sure that my core guys, my 10 active roster spots, I would try to spend most of my draft dollars on those spots, and I would just use for my bench spots, I would just spend about $1 on those. So there are some distinctions based on how your league is set up where you can decide on how to go about drafting a little bit differently about how much money you're going to spend on over how many different players, which drastically changes your strategy as you're going here. We got Kevin Durant up. He's already bid up to $68. Mark, were you going to get in on that?
I'm having too much fun talking to the people in the draft so far. Sorry, I've been absent.
And did you tell them that we're recording this?
No, I just he doesn't know who I am, so I've been telling him that you're a diva.
At $71. I'm sorry, we're treating this like it's a head-to-head auction. So we're using our head-to-head rankings with our head-to-head draft strategy. In that head-to-head draft strategy, somewhat because Anthony Davis's projection is only at 69 games for this season, he's ranked a little bit lower for us. So that does kind of reduce his auction value for us. Mark, something that a lot of people might notice is that your auction values or the auction values that we have for these players are often much lower than what they go for, what the big players go for on these sites. Can you explain that at all, why that may be?
Yeah, I don't know if is that true?
I think it is in some respects, like just because you'll see guys like Steph Curry going for $72, whereas we're
definitely seeing them going higher in here. That's for sure. I mean, part of it is what you're talking about with a head-to-head league. You want to have a good bench. I would say that hasn't always been the case. There have definitely been years where my top players have been in the 60s and 70s, and people have been bidding, you end up picking like 3 or 4 guys in the first round just because, well, probably not 4, 2 or 3 guys in the first round just because Yahoo or ESPN suggested values are lower than that. So, I mean, I don't know. All I can say is that it's based off of the, attributing to them the dollar amounts that are appropriate for their projection. And, if ESPN is suggesting dollars are too high, then you're probably not going to be able to get as many stars, but that at least means you're not overspending on them.
Now, I just had to nominate my first guy, and the first person I nominated was Rudy Gobert. And the reason I threw him out there is because he's not somebody I plan on bidding on. So I want other people to spend their money. This is a common draft strategy that you can use when you're nominating players.
That was a pretty good price for him, I would say, actually.
You like him at $40?
$40. I expected him to go higher. Well, I don't think it's a good value necessarily, but I am surprised that he didn't go higher.
And that's fair. That's fair. So I need to get this switched over to. Sorry, I'm trying to manage the screen sharing here. So how high would you go on a Rudy Gobert in this kind of a draft?
Well, I don't know that I would necessarily go $40. Yeah, I don't know. 40 is probably fine. That's maybe my limit. I wouldn't have bid on that guy necessarily. Harden is he's going for 70 right here. Do I have the wrong impression? I'm thinking that these guys are cheaper on the Yahoo site.
I haven't done an auction over on Yahoo right now to this point. So I'm not sure if these guys are actually cheaper than what's on Yahoo right now.
Yeah. You know what the other thing is that we maybe aren't taking into account on our website right now is that we've got it for a 10-team league and this is a 12-team league. That will make some difference.
You mean the fact that in our projected head-to-head rankings that we're using,
the auction values on the site,
that assumes a 12-team league, whereas right now we're drafting in a 10-team league. Yep.
Exactly.
Right, and the reason
and the difference as you would think it does. Like I just ran them again, and the prices are about the same. Oh, somebody threw out Joseph Young. Bold move.
Yeah, in a 10-team league, I don't think that I'm trying to bid up a Joseph Young. I mean, he's interesting. He's going to be the backup point guard for the Indiana Pacers this season as a rookie, and he's definitely a scorer. Now here's an interesting guy. We got DeMarcus Cousins coming on the auction block right now. I'm pretty excited about him.
Kyle, I know that it's a pretty common strategy to sort of throw out players and get rid of money that you don't want to spend on. I actually don't do that. I've never feel like it's been totally fruitful for me. What I like to do is I'll usually approach an auction with a set list of almost like roster filled out of guys I want to get and maybe some contingency plans. And I'll start throwing them the key pieces of my roster build out early so that I can be assured of what I'm going to get them for. Like there's some guys that I feel like, almost are just like, I really want to have this guy. And if I'm not going to have him, I need to make a drastic change. I need to do things way differently. And so I want to know as early as possible on if I'm going to have that player or not. And if I'm not going to have that player, then I will make that adjustment. What I don't want to have happen is count on getting that player and then have the auction go on and then me get way overbid on that player and not get him. And then I have no good options. Does that make sense? I just got Paul George for $40, which I
know, and I was trying to bid 42, and I missed out on him. So I mean, to be honest, I wasn't really listening to you. I was trying to debate whether or not to bid on Paul George. But so I guess.
So my strategy is I'm throwing out guys I want because I want to know whether they're going to be on my team as early as possible. Like if I'm planning to get Paul George, I'm going to throw out Paul George.
Okay.
I'm going to nominate him so that I'll know if I can get a good price on him or if I need to sort of pivot my plan, what I'm planning to do or not. Like if I need to because the worst thing that I think you can do is wait and wait and wait for Paul George, hoping that you're going to get a steal, and then somebody else bids you up and you don't get Paul George and you don't get all the good players that you passed on because you were waiting for Paul George.
No, I get that, but what I like to do is to just make sure I have my queue built up so that I know who I'm going after. And thanks a lot for bidding up Michael Carter-Williams on me, dude. I was about to get him for $5, and now you're fighting with me. So now we're spending our money against each other. What's the point of that?
We can colluding here.
We have to collude. I mean, what we can collude a little bit right here. It's a mock draft.
We're not going to collude. This is an auction mock draft.
Okay, but let's talk about this. Let's talk about this from the perspective that did you actually want Michael Carter-Williams?
I would be happy to have him on my team for $8.
Yeah, no crap. I would have loved to have had him at $5, which I was about to get him for. See, what happened was about 10 years ago, my brother and I were doing an auction draft together, and I started bidding up a player he was bidding on. And after the draft, he kindly explained to me, "What are you doing, man? Like, there's no reason to bid me up on this player. There's
That's
maybe,
part of the fun of an auction, man.
Oh,
that's what makes auctions fun.
I
just did my family's auction league, and that's half of the fun is everybody bids up everybody else's favorite player.
I guess
and
so.
It's this big chicken match between somebody who doesn't really want the player and somebody who has to have the player. But like at some point, the costs get so high that I don't know, it's just a big game of chicken, which makes it pretty fun, I think.
So in addition to pulling up the stats that, like our projections, our rankings, I also like to have a tool open that shows me all of last year's final values for the players. So I'll go to Basketball Monster and I'll pull up last year's stats for the players and their auction values to see what they were valued at last season as a per game player for their total production. And then I'll also look at the guys who I'll have a third tab open on Basketball Monster where I'm looking at what guys did in the second half of last season so I can see how high their value was there. And what that gives me is kind of a range where I can say, okay, this is what they did last season. If I think they're going to do better this season, I can spend a few more dollars on them. If I think they're going to do worse this season, I can spend a little bit less money on them. And that's one of the ways that I kind of figure out how to decide how much money to spend on particular players. One last strategy thought in this whole thing is that when I'm seeing a guy like Rudy Gobert go off the board at $40, what I want to care about is there a comparable player still available who I could get for cheaper? Because if there is, I'm probably going to let him go. So when I see Rudy Gobert going for 40 and a Draymond, and an Andre Drummond still sitting there, or a Nerlens Noel, I'm probably going to wait to spend about $20 to $25 on those guys rather than spending the 40 on Rudy Gobert. I don't know if you agree with any of this, Mark. These are just the things that I think about when I'm inside of an auction.
Yeah, I think I take a little different approach than you. I think with an auction you can get you can really plan out what you want to do. You know what the suggested values are on the site that you're using. So I like to take the values and I like to build a team before the draft using like $180 or $185. And I like to sort of outline, this is who I would like to put in each one of these spots. And I might even make a backup. Like if I don't get Gobert, I'm going to get Drummond, to use your example. If the bidding on Gobert is just too crazy, then I'll go with my backup plan. But there will usually be 3 or 4 key players that I feel like I really, really want to get, either because they're good value or because I like what the production that they're giving me. I think that they fit together nicely. And that's what I'm saying. I throw out those players early to try to make sure I know what I'm getting with them, so that if I need to change my strategy at some point during the draft, it's at the beginning of the draft and not at the end of the draft when a lot of your options are gone.
I guess I feel like most of the usually what ends up happening is because I wait so long and I only buy guys who I feel like are good values, and I generally am avoiding some of the most pricey players out there. I'm not going to get usually a first-round guy most of the time. I might get some guys who have first-round potential. But a lot of the time in an auction draft, I'm not going to get a first-round guy unless it's a very shallow league. If it's a very shallow league, I'll go out there and I will buy. Or if people are just letting guys go for cheap.
Say that 10-team league is pretty shallow?
It's shallow. It's definitely shallow. But like, I think I was in in some ways it depends. Like if players are going for super cheap and you're not in one of these leagues where everybody's bidding them up and everything, like right now in this mock draft we're doing, we've got 4 inactive owners here, like 4 people bailed on the mock draft. So there's a bunch of money just getting thrown on some of these players for a lot of the after the initial bids. Just because it's the auto bot on ESPN kind of upbidding all these guys. That's gonna once that money goes away, there's gonna be a bunch of value players available, and I'm gonna want to go after those guys. So I don't usually go after the high value guys because they either get eaten up by people who are too over anxious to spend their money early, or they get eaten up by the bots if you end up having people not show up for the draft.
That makes sense, and I think that's a fair strategy in head-to-head leagues. I think particularly like if you were doing a rotisserie league, which we're not, so maybe it's not even fair to mention, but I think really your only chance to access those top guys is during the draft, during the auction, right? Like I think it's incredibly hard to pull off a trade, at least in my experience, for a player that somebody spent $50 or $60 or $70 on. Like they just don't give them up very often. So if there's a guys in the first round value area that you like, I think you should, I'm all for spending on them. Deep leagues do make me a little nervous there, but I don't have a problem walking out with like 2 or 3 of those guys on my team and just figuring that I can add players off the waiver wire and build up a good team by, after a few weeks from there. In some ways I kind of like it that way. I can put a lot of lottery tickets on my team. If a few of them pan out, I can keep them. The rest of them I can kick to the curb, and then, I can just keep cycling through guys until I build up a good team. And then I've got those, because one of the things that's frustrating is if you put your team together perfectly auction, it's hard to start picking up a lot of those guys. A lot of like the Draymond Greens last year, if you don't have a spot for him on your team, that might mean that you don't pick him up in time. Somebody who's desperate for him picks him up earlier and you miss out on him. So I don't think you necessarily have to have your team like finished or complete after the draft. And so I'm okay drafting, like spending all your money in a couple of places.
And then just I like having, like, I might get 3 second-round players, but I won't have a first-round player. And then I'm going to have a bunch of guys who are all, in my eyes, going to end up being like top 50, top 60 guys. Like that's going to be my whole team. Because rather than spending $75 or $80 on Kevin Durant or Anthony Davis or whatever, I'm just going to have that much more money available to spend on other guys who start going at a value. See, like I should be bidding on Eric Bledsoe here, but I'm not worried about it because there's still other guys that I want to go after while you're filling out your team. Now here we got a guy who I'm Gordon Hayward's on the board. I'm going to start bidding on him. Like I want him. And I'm willing to spend money on him. But what I'll also often do is even if I'm interested in a guy, I threw out $1 bid on Gordon Hayward. Usually I won't start bidding up on him until everybody else is done doing their like speed bidding rounds. I'll just kind of sit back, wait for the clock to start to die out. Get out of here, Mark. Come on, man. Yeah, why you got to be bidding me up? Okay? I mean, and right before I'm about to get it from somebody else in here, man, there is no point to be doing that. Because I mean, you act like we're colluding, but you've got an advantage to know that I like this guy. Come on now. You're colluding with yourself, bro. It makes me so happy. You just made me pay an extra $2 for Gordon Hayward. I'm kind of pissed.
You just spent 2 fake dollars on this mock draft.
Let's see how much people want to spend on LaMarcus Aldridge.
My favorite thing to do in mock drafts, and there isn't a good player to do this with this year, but like for a few years, there was I can't remember who it was. In football, there was a second Adrian Peterson that you could throw out at the beginning of mock auctions.
Oh my God, you're horrible.
He wasn't. So I would throw him out and people would spend $60 or $80 on him. And then they would realize he's not the real Adrian Peterson. That was my very favorite thing.
You sound like Lex Luthor.
Made my day. Every time.
So who do you got on your team right now? You got Michael Carter-Williams at 8. You got Eric Bledsoe at 27, Paul George at 41, and John Wall at 46.
Yep. Yeah, like so that's what I'm saying. Like I don't mind getting some. My preference probably would have been to get some of the higher ranked guys than I even got, but they were going for so much. They went for almost like $30 more than John Wall and Paul George went with. So I'm good getting them. I thought you didn't like Draymond Green.
Yeah. Wow. Well, look at that. But some jerk is bidding on him, so I thought I'd bid this guy up a little bit.
All right. Well, you're gonna have to own him for the next few hours then.
I'm okay with that at $31 because we've got him valued at like 36. That's the other thing. Like another reason why I don't usually go after a lot of those first round players in auctions is, for one, everybody wants them. Like they're willing to pay more money than what they're worth. I put,
and I think that's the key, because I think there's sometimes people get scared to pay the money that they're worth. So I think it just depends on your room. But you're right. You can't go over what they're worth. I think,
Derrick Rose he's up to $10. He's going to go. It's so tempting sometimes, even though we know not to draft guys like that, there are times where you're like, well, it's just a good enough value that it's worth putting them on my team. But if you start adding too many guys who you don't actually want on your team and start spending money where you don't want to, you're going to end up getting to the end of the draft too. And you're going to be like, why the hell did I spend $10 on Derrick Rose? I hate him. I'm just going to want to drop him. And now I can't go out and buy Myers Leonard or whoever. And it's going to frustrate the heck out of you.
Mm-hmm. Do you get my point, though, about like not finishing your team in the draft? Like if you draft 14 or 13 solid players that you want and you really like, and all of them sort of pan out, then you don't really have anybody to drop to pick up like the 2 or 3 good waiver wire picks of the year.
Do you know where that screws you? Is when you draft Draymond Green and then you drop him because you don't think that his hot start is going to last. That's what sucks.
Yeah, well, don't do that.
Right.
All I'm saying is,
not saying I did that.
I don't mind picking like. Yeah, we would not advise to do that. No, all I'm saying is I don't mind coming out of an auction with only 8 of the guys that I really want and like 5 guys that if they pan out, great. If not, I'm fine dropping them like within a couple of weeks.
Okay, so like I just bid on.
I want to have some players at the bottom of my roster to churn.
I guess I don't know why you would. I don't know why you would plan on having crappier players on your roster so you can pick up better players off the waiver wire. Like that sounds funny to me.
I mean, the advantage is then you get to have better guys at the top of your roster. Like one strategy, which is what I think you're describing, is make sure you have a solid team. Like don't overpay for anybody. You don't have to get the big guys if you don't want. You can fill out a solid team. And my argument is, well, okay, what if I want to just have 4 awesome players and then 3 really good players to go along with them? So I've got 7. I know I have 7 guys that are like solid on my team, and I think I can pick up 3 more guys. So my top 7 are better than your top 7. And I think I can pick up 5 guys that are just as good as the bottom 5 guys in your team. So by about halfway through the year, my team is better than your team because I invested in the really good guys during the draft.
Right, but if you buy 3 really good guys, you're not going to have any money left over to spend on another 3. Like you can buy 1 really good guy or 2 really good guys in most auctions, but after that, if you bought a 3rd really good guy, you'd have 3 really good guys, and then you'd have like a bunch of $1 players, which in a shallow enough
that's kind
league,
of what I'm saying.
In a shallow enough league,
yeah.
you could make that work. But
and I'm willing to do that like in a 10-team league.
That's cray. But you didn't. I mean, like you didn't go out and buy Durant or DeMarcus and stuff like that in this auction. You waited for
they went
considered value buys.
Yeah, they went high. I mean, they went so much higher than I would have felt like they were value.
And that's what I feel happens.
But I have totally done that. I think it just depends on the room. I think it is like each auction is its own different thing. But all I'm saying is I'm not scared to like buy those guys just because it means I can't fill out my roster with all top 75 guys. Like I don't mind filling out my roster with lottery ticket guys and then trying to pick up players throughout the year.
No, I mean I don't mind doing that either, but like with the auction format allows, I would just rather not overspend on. My whole thing is that most of the auctions I get into, you have to overspend to get the guys that are, you know, first round.
Yeah, that makes sense. Don't do that.
I just missed out on Nicholas Batum. He went for $15. We were in the middle of our conversation. If I was paying attention, I would have bid on him. Now you're bidding up Victor Oladipo.
I think you're bidding. I bid on him first.
Whatever.
I bid 22. And then I bid 24. Then I bid 26.
I have perpetual. He's somebody else get into it.
I was talking. I forgot to hit bid. No, you won him.
Oh, cool! Got him for $2. $2 discount according to our head-to-head values. Oh, sugar! Let somebody else draft Chandler Parsons. Even if somebody spends $2 on him, it's a win. Somebody dropped $15. Yes, a hurt Chandler Parsons is better than a Nick Batum. Please spend your money. Sorry.
I think the robots are bidding. I don't.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
No.
Which I think is the
Team Wong. Team Wong is the one who bid him up to $14. That's a dude.
It's a real dude.
Yeah. Ooh, Kyle Lowry. The svelte Kyle Lowry.
Oh boy. Well, I'll take him. Well, big Team Wong, man. He's price enforcing here.
Jeez, oh Pete, man. I am he's price enforcing on Kyle Lowry. I love how Kyle Lowry's gonna go for cheaper than
Chandler Parsons.
Yeah, what the hell's going on?
I don't know. Team Wong is fighting me for him, but I think I'm gonna eventually get him. We've got him for $32.
I don't even like that I've only got $106 left. I don't like that I've already spent that much. Like I actually think I went after more $30 players than what I usually would have.
But who do you like? Who on your team don't you like?
I love them. I like them all. I'm fine with them all.
Yeah. Team Wong is a loser, man.
How much is Marc Roberts going to spend on Kyle Lowry?
Let's just be done with it, man. I'm tired. He wore me out.
Goodbye, Team Wong. Jordan Clarkson. He's is he going undrafted in some people's drafts? Has your kind of perception of him changed at all over the last week or so with anything?
I mean, it seems like I think when I initially did the projections, I wasn't sure what they were going to do with him. And now it seems like he's probably going to start. So, yeah, I mean, I think you're always worried that he's just that good stats on a bad team guy. Like, and as they get a little bit more talented, his numbers are going to drop. But I think, for $4, which is what he went for, I think that's a great value. I probably should have picked him. I am confused in here because there's a Team Wong and there's a Team What's Wong.
Oh, you're right.
Hey, Rudy Gay, man, that's your boy, right?
Oh yeah, I've just been waiting for the bidding to slow down more than anything. Unfortunately, this Team Corbin jerk. Actually, there's a couple of jerks in here.
Are you gonna bid on him? You gonna let me get him for $20? Oh, there we go.
Oh, you bid him up to 20? I mean, you're just doing this to like price protect or
I
whatever.
want to see how mad I can get you about a mock draft.
Well,
Mostly.
but like it's like you're using your knowledge to go against me.
That's what you should do in an auction. That's why an auction is fun.
For you, I want to actually get these guys at a value, and you're price enforcing me. I don't even have the opportunity to do that. This is.
That's why you got to play the game. But then you got to play the game, man.
I am playing the game.
That's why when it's fun when you get in a league like this with a bunch of your buddies and you know exactly like who their favorite guys are. I think auctions are funner than snake drafts for that reason. I
would love to do a live auction sometime where you actually are sitting there bidding in person with people. Pau Gasol is up to 22 bucks.
Yeah, over the weekend I was in a family league draft and I paired the Gasol brothers together, which made me delighted. I feel like they'll play better maybe on my team since they're brothers, and I was really happy. I've been trying to come up with Gasol related names for my team, but I haven't come up with anything good.
Oh, you know what?
You love Pau Gasol. Are you really not going to bid on him?
Not at 28 bucks. Not when I still got Andre Drummond sitting here.
Ooh, that's going to be a fun one. I want to see if I can make you have to put an E on this podcast instead of a C.
Oh, where are you? Team Roberts, you got 78 bucks. Why don't you spend your money on guys you like you said you want to do?
I'm saving it for Andre Drummond, man. Reggie Jackson and Andre Drummond and Stanley Johnson.
I'm just going to blow my load on Stanley Johnson right now. See, this is what I mean. Like why blow your money on certain players when you can fill out your team and like your bench could end up being like, you could end up having like Rudy. Why can't I think of his dang name? Ricky Rubio. You could end up having Ricky Rubio sitting on your bench.
Yeah, but that's why like I keep saying like I can fill out my bench in the during the season. I can pick up the guys who become valuable. So I prefer to spend my money way earlier.
I just talked about having a top 60 guy potentially for head-to-head leagues on your bench though. Like
yeah. And I do have, like I said, I've admitted this. Like it's different for head-to-head and Roto, but
oh yeah, totally.
I think my strategy is a little more viable for Roto. We're head-to-head. Well, I had a good discussion with some guys on Twitter about this today. I think the best version of head-to-head is one with a games limit. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, where you can say you only get 35 games this week, or you only get whatever the limit is, 40 or 30 or 32. I had a lot of people with opinions about that as well. But, oh, man, Kevin Love went for a pretty good deal there when I was talking. I would have been on him.
Yeah, he went for 19 bucks, which, yeah.
Yeah, I would have taken him for that. No, I just think, like, if you put the games limit in there, it becomes a lot more like it's like the best parts of Roto and the best parts of head-to-head combined.
Well, and the good thing too, like if you just put so wait, you want a games limit? I was thinking more of like a moves limit each week.
I know some people, hey, that's not very nice of you. I know some people like the moves limit. I think it kind of does the same thing. I actually prefer the games limit, but I don't know that it's a humongous difference.
Yeah, we usually just do like a 3 to 4 moves limit each week, right, so that you don't have an opportunity to sit there and like stream or we'll set a moves limit for the league for the whole season, you know. Okay. Like
I'm saving my money. I'll let you have favors. I'm saving my money for Drummond. No, I see what you're saying. I like it because it kind of takes out the imbalance, like the games limit So the moves limit stops streaming, which I think is nice. The games limit, I think, limits the advantage you have by having guys that play 4 games instead of 3 games, or just like the team, an advantage the team has just because their players are scheduled to play more games. And that, I think there's pros and cons of that, but I personally like that, where it's just, it makes it so it's more balanced. Like it's almost a testable, like whose players are better rather than how many games can you accumulate through the week.
But are there some people who don't hit that threshold? Don't hit the 35 games threshold?
I mean, you can set your threshold to wherever you want, right? But in the league that I am a commissioner of, that we have that rule, every once in a while somebody will come through at 33 or 34, but for the most part, everybody's hitting their 35 every week.
Man, that almost sounds like you got to plan like how many big guy games you're playing potentially, because you need to know that you're getting enough
more
blocks.
Of a chess game to it. Oh, I just bid on him and I didn't mean to. Oh, good.
It's because you're used to just bidding on everybody's players.
No, you're right. You have to kind of think through that a little bit, and you have to try to guess which games the other guy is going to play. But personally, I kind of like that.
I got an invite today to a league where you just draft and then you just let all the stats accumulate. Not sure if I'm going to do it yet or not. But it sounds low maintenance, which is nice.
Yeah. It's basically what we're doing tonight, and then you're done.
Right. And there's a part of me that's just like, no, I'm into commitment. Oh, no! 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 I was distracted. No! I'm so sorry. That must be annoying to everybody. Gosh, dang it.
I almost got you to curse.
I just want to break everything right now. This is a mock draft. Why am I getting so worked up? Andrew Wiggins, $2. So Mark just got Andre Drummond for what? $20?
$20. We've got him listed for 32 on our site.
For this punt strategy. I hate you. So now I have to hope that DeAndre Jordan I can get for, $6. Not really, but so upset. Andrew Wiggins, he's at $11 right now.
I'll take him too, man.
Oh, you're kind of doing so wait a minute. You're kind of just going after value players.
At this point, yeah. Like the big guys are gone.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to get, I would have loved to get DeMarcus Cousins or Anthony Davis or both of them, but they went for so much. I just was like, I think the other logical play when players start going for $15 and $20 more than you've got them priced for is just to wait around for the values. And now I'm cleaning up. I just got Tyreek Evans for who we got listed for almost $30. I just got him for 10. Wiggins we had for, I don't know what, 30 or 25, and I got him for 10. Andre Drummond we have for 35 or 32. I got him for 10 or 20, excuse me. So I feel great about that. I'm going to have a bunch of $1 guys on my team anyway because I'm starting to run out of money, but I don't really care at this point. I have enough time to look up Teague. Yeah, he just went for a good deal too, man. What are you waiting for over there?
There's guys that I like better than those guys who all the money's going to be hopefully just gone here. There's like a couple guys who have cash. Honestly, I was just letting you spend your money on Tyreek Evans so that you had less money to mess around with me with. Like I knew
want to get Reggie Jackson. You want Reggie Jackson real bad, I'm thinking.
I don't want to talk about it. You know what? Consider I want you to forget everything that you know about me, okay?
I'm putting Reggie Jackson in my queue.
I know you are.
I love how worked up you're getting about a mock draft. This has been the best part of my day so far.
This is life, Ma. There's tons of guys I still like available. You go and you look through the players who are in the queue. Like I could get Vucevic, I could get Brook Lopez, Reggie Jackson, DeAndre Jordan. Oh man, Brandon Knight's still there. Ty Lawson, Karl Anthony Towns, Danny Green's gonna go for $14 right now. Goodbye.
That was a good deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about this strategy? So one thing I've been doing in a lot of my head-to-head leagues is grabbing Kyrie Irving. I think actually I've got him in every head-to-head league because basically everyone's dropping him down because of his injury, which makes total sense. But I basically said, I think I can get to the playoffs or at least put myself in a good position to get to the playoffs. I hit big on Giannis. He just went for $7. I think I can get in a position to go to the playoffs. I can kind of tread water at least till he gets back. And then if he's back for the head-to-head playoffs, like, what does it matter that I missed out on the first few weeks of his production? Do you think that's a stupid idea?
No, not at all. I mean, that seems completely reasonable strategy to use.
Is that a strategy you would consider using?
Yes. The Giannis going for $7 thing.
That made me
because
I was sitting here hitting bid.
You've got me a little bit twisted, like Keith Sweat sings about. But I was looking at him, and then I'm looking around. I'm like, well, Nikola Mirotic is still sitting there. Nobody's gonna have any money to spend, so why wouldn't I want to spend my money on him? Let's not do this, Mark.
I can't let a player that I've got listed for $26 go for $14, Kyle.
How much are you going to spend on him?
I'm going to spend what I'm going to spend, I think.
Yeah, well, then let's go. Let's do this. There's no point in waiting, man. How much are we going to spend on this guy?
Yeah. I just got my eyes closed. I'm just hitting bid until it's over. If you bid one more time, I'll let you have him. All right. You got him. I didn't really want Reggie Jackson, so I was starting to get nervous that you were going to let me keep him.
I probably should have. But he's firing.
By the way, that's one of my favorite parts of the auction drafts is when you can get somebody that thinks that they're going to make you bid up on one of your favorite players, and then you can stick him with that player that they don't want. They just spent $40 on a guy they have no interest in. It makes me. Hey, I saw this thing. I saw it referenced a bunch of times. Can you talk to everybody about what the Celtics are doing with their big guys? Because I actually haven't gone in and read it yet.
I mean,
they're focusing on 4 guys, right?
Yeah, Tyler Zeller is going to start at center. David Lee is going to start at power forward, and then you're going to have a rotation off the bench of Amir Johnson and Kelly Olynyk. Solinger's not going to play.
Yeah.
Jonas Jerebko is probably not going to play. It looks like Jay Crowder's probably going to start at small forward.
So the 2 starters are going to be Lee and Johnson?
No, Lee and Tyler Zeller.
Tyler and Zeller. And then Johnson and Olynyk are coming off the bench.
Right, but if I had to choose 2 guys that I think are going to play the most, it's probably going to end up being David Lee and Amir Johnson.
Yeah. And they, by the way, have the most fantasy value probably, unless you knew Olynyk was going to get big minutes. See, I just got Kyrie Irving for less than Reggie Jackson went for.
Yeah, and Kyrie Irving is also coming back from broken knee surgery.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't mind if I have to wait. Like, if I have to wait till January for Kyrie Irving, as long as he's back for my head-to-head playoffs at $15, I think that's a great value.
No, and this is where you can really capitalize on buying injured players and then stashing them on your IR spots if you have them in your league. And most leagues are going to have them this year because you've always been able to use them on ESPN, and now you're going to be able to use them on Yahoo this season. So that was actually a great strategy for taking an injured guy and stashing him. I'm just hating on Kyrie Irving because that's my default one of my go-to hates.
You don't like him, huh?
I don't like drafting him where you got to
take away the name. I would think the stat profile is a guy that you would like high points, good,
I had him in a lot of leagues last year. He broke his kneecap.
He's going so low this year.
I mean, for $15 in an auction league, I'm okay with that. And I know he's ranked
Right.
at like 55 on ESPN. The problem is like I'm still drafting guys that I really, really like at that time who are healthy. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just
But in an
hard for
auction, you
me.
don't have to worry about the order, you know?
Exactly. And in an auction, if you're getting them for $15, that's justifiable. $15, what is that? Like eighth round that you're taking them, essentially?
Yeah, I don't know what the conversion would be, but probably.
Yeah, $15, you're looking at like the 69th, 70th pick. So based on our 12 team rankings. Ugh, no, that's
I'm
fine. I would
getting good
take Kyrie
values on
Irving there.
guys. This might be like the cheapest team I've ever drafted in an auction. I usually do what I described, which is basically spend all my money early, but I filled out 10 guys on my team, basically filled out my starting lineup with what I think are all pretty good values.
Don't you love the players that you have on your team?
Yeah, but like what I'm saying is, yes, I do. I'm happy I got good value on all of these guys. Um, the problem though I can see, like I've been saying, is if I fill out my bench with 3 more good guys, which I won't have money to do, so it won't be a problem. Then I don't have any room to pick up guys that I want to play. Like last year, I spent a majority of my money on 2 or 3 guys, and then I ended up picking. I mean, it was fortunate, but I ended up picking Rudy Gobert up, ended up picking Draymond Green up, I ended up picking up Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then by the playoffs, I had a stacked team anyway.
So you like doing the waiver wire work, and you don't want to have a team that's just so stacked that you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Yep.
It's some first world problems there for fantasy, man. Like my team is so good, I can't drop anybody.
Exactly. But I think that those teams that do that kind of use the waiver wire, they end up being the best teams because you've got the good value and then you're adding in more value later on.
No, I mean absolutely, but if you can draft a top 80 player, at every single position, then you just may not have to use the waiver wire that much. And you're probably going to have to use the waiver wire at some point regardless because somebody's going to get injured,
Somebody's going to underperform.
Yep.
No, I get it. No, I get it.
Now I'm just patiently
the other thing that you have to, I would
want.
say, the other thing I would have to say is with auctions, you never quite know when the value is going to come to you. So don't be afraid. Like I remember one draft specifically that I was in. I got a good value with the very first pick. The best player didn't get thrown out, and people were kind of nervous. And I got like a $10 or $15 discount on a very good player. And then the next pick that happened again, and I didn't bid because I was like, I don't want to spend all my money in like the top 2 picks. And then there didn't feel like there was another good value the rest of the draft. And like looking back, I wish I would have just spent in the second pick, even though I just drafted the first guy, because I didn't take advantage of grabbing like a good value guy when I had the chance. And then I really never felt like I got the chance again. So like, you just never know, like value can come in the first of an auction draft or in the middle or at the end. What I'm saying is take advantage of it when you see it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why going into the draft with an understanding of how much do I want to spend on a player generally? Like how much am I expecting to spend on Andre Drummond? And that's why I like to use multiple reference points. I like to use our projections and our projected values. I like to look at last season's values based on their stats from last season, which is to me a little bit more concrete. That's your baseline. And I like to have that reference there so that it's more easy to discern, okay, you know what? This guy just got nominated. It's the start of the draft and he's going to go cheap because nobody, everybody's afraid to spend their money right now. Because that
happened to me in a draft this weekend. Is the first player that was nominated was Karl Anthony Towns, and I think the person who nominated didn't want him. He just wanted to throw him out to get money off the board, and everybody was so ready to bid on like Kevin Durant or James Harden or Steph Curry or Anthony Davis that like everybody kind of froze, and I got him for like half the price that I had him listed for. So even though I didn't plan on buying him, I felt like, hey, there's a great value. I got Karl Anthony Towns for just a couple of bucks. And, you know, even though it was like the very first pick and that's not who I was like planning on, you have to be a little bit flexible to take advantage of those kind of moments.
Absolutely. Now, DeAndre Jordan's up. I didn't get Andre Drummond earlier because of somebody, but I got Derek Favors. I just got Karl Anthony Towns at 11.
Hold on. I bid on Andre Drummond one time at $20. You can't blame me too much for that. If I wouldn't have gotten him, somebody else would have. You didn't. You put on 0 bids on Andre Drummond.
How much we got on DeAndre? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, 33.
Jesus. There's a jerkwad bot that was just bidding them up $1 at a time on me.
Those bots are the worst.
Well, it went
So
past. It went past the pre-draft valuation that's on ESPN. The pre-draft valuation for DeAndre Jordan was $15, and it went past that. It bid him up to 17. I ended up having to pay 18 for DeAndre, but.
So I actually got to the bottom of how those bots work. Are you interested in knowing?
Yes.
So the way the bots work is they take whatever the preset auction value is. So say nobody changed their pre-draft value. So like for Chris Middleton, it will be $12, which will be the starting point for the bot. And then the computer will randomly assign them a number between 60% and 110% of that pre-draft value. It's totally random, and they will bid to that amount on each player. So like for Jonas Valanciunas, maybe they're going to go 110% of his pre-draft value, but for the next player, maybe they're going to go 60% of their pre-draft value. So it's all just a big, like kind of a random who they go after and who they don't. It is absolutely totally random.
That just sounds stupid. Why don't they just why don't they take the data from? I mean, it's kind of manic and beautiful in that way. Like,
that's why you'll see some of the guys in your leagues that are auto drafting get like the 3 of the first best players because they're going over the pre-draft value, and why you see some auto draft guys leave like $100 on the table because they're getting randomly assigned more of the lower value amounts. I don't know why they do it that way, but that's how they do it. So I just got Trevor Ariza for $3. He's listed for $31 in our rankings. So I feel pretty good about that one.
See, I'm sitting here and I'm watching all these guys that I'm not really interested in go off the board. And there's a part of me that doesn't care what they go at. So see, the fact that Trevor Ariza went for $3, I don't really care because the guys that I have in my queue are who I want to spend my money on. And
you want to have Trevor Ariza for $3? Let's see who you got in your queue here. You got Rubio, Mirotic,
Greg Monroe right now.
Yeah, those are all good guys too.
I mean,
how much money do you have left?
I've only got $35 left, but that's more than a lot of.
Okay, I was thinking you had more.
So now Elfrid Payton
spent pretty good. Oh, I love me some Elfrid Payton. I know you. Well, I don't know where do you stand on him, because it seemed like a day or two ago when we talked about him, you were a little bit down on him, but we were talking about him pretty high in drafts.
Here's the other good thing. See, look at you. You're bidding him up, even though you only have a couple bucks.
I'm almost out of players, so.
Right. So, see, I love having a little bit of money.
$27 in our league, or excuse me, in our rankings.
Yes, sir. What did I do? Okay, there we go. So I'm still looking for more players to put in my queue. I really need to go get Myers Leonard in there. Got to throw CJ McCollum over there. It's a head-to-head league, so I should still keep Jahlil Okafor in mind. Moutier, man, that cat looked great last night against the Clippers. Or who was it against? Not the Clippers. I can't remember who the heck he was playing, but Moutier looked great last night. It was awesome. He was working a lot off the sugar poop. No, I don't want to nominate him. Whoops. I wasn't paying attention. I had to nominate somebody. Ended up putting Rubio up there. So see how much I got a bid on him. But anyways, Moutier was looking good. And somebody actually asked me today, or I saw on the Reddit, there was a discussion about who would you rather have, Moutier or MCW? And my initial reaction was, MCW.
Fantasy or otherwise?
For fantasy, for head-to-head league.
Gotcha.
So I'm thinking, well, MCW, because I think he shot decently when he was with Milwaukee in the second half last season.
I mean, I think it was in the 40s instead of the 30s.
Okay. The thing is, the things that you expect MCW to suck at are the same things you expect Moutier to suck at: shooting percentages and turnovers. And there might be a higher ceiling for Moutier just because he doesn't have to share the ball with like the Milwaukee offense is more share the ball, whereas for the Nuggets, it's just going to be Moutier distributing a lot. And yeah, guys like Danilo Gallinari will get it, but it's not like they have somebody.
That's kind of a gamble, though, I would think, to go with Moutier over. I mean, Michael Carter-Williams is kind of a known quantity at this point. He definitely has his warts, but Moutier is, like, we know what he's going to be bad at, and we know what we think we know what he's going to be good at, but we don't know what he's going to be good at for sure. So I mean, I would definitely take Carter-Williams over him. I think Moutier could go in a lot of different directions. In a dynasty, in a dynasty league, I think that's a bigger question. Like, Moutier could end up being a much better player than Carter-Williams a few years down the road. But in 1 year leagues, I think if you played out the league 100 times, I think Michael Carter-Williams is the better player 95 out of 100 times.
I think for our head-to-head format, though, Moutier is probably might get more shots than what MCW does.
Yeah, so we've got Carter-Williams for 14 points. I think it's unlikely that Moutier scores more than that, but I can see him scoring more than that. But to sort of to pass him in enough categories that he's a more valuable fantasy player, I think is really unlikely. Like, if you take each category individually, you could say, you could kind of make a case. You could say it's unlikely, but Moutier could definitely pass him. But to say that he does it in enough categories that he becomes more valuable, I think is really unlikely.
I think we might be surprised. Like, you go look at MCW, his first year was much better than his second year. And a lot of that was due to the opportunity and being healthier and all that kind of stuff.
Listen, like, there's nobody that we know less about than Moutier. Like, we know what he's going to do with less confidence next year than Moutier, but that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, I don't know that I necessarily want to take I would rather take the sure thing with Carter-Williams. Now, if you're telling me I have to draft Carter-Williams at a certain place, like in the 5th round, and I can draft Moutier at the end of the draft, I would rather have that. I would rather have Moutier. But if you're telling me I have to draft them at one or the other at the same spot in the draft, I'd take Michael Carter-Williams.
Man.
But that's just me. I mean, I'm not telling you you're wrong. If you want to have Moutier, that's fine with me. I don't think it's stupid.
Part of it is I come on here after getting done watching like a highlight reel or the game from yesterday or whatever, and I just want to say all the good things about the person. But Moutier, you
gotta lay off those preseason games, man.
No. You can tell. And I think I actually know what's concerning is watching a highlight reel and then taking too much away from that, because although, dude, the preseason games are great. I've been killing some of my haterade a little bit. Like I'm not as down on Julius Randle as I was. He's not going to hold the ball. I made a comparison to Michael Beasley holding the ball out on the perimeter, the similar, kind of back in those days when Phoenix was trying to turn Michael Beasley into a number one option. That happened. And that's not Julius Randle. He's aggressive as all get out with it. He's looked pretty good. I don't know if he's going to do enough in like 3-pointer steals or blocks from game to game to get really good value, but he might be the big man version of Evan Turner or something like that. So where
without the assists and 3-pointers.
No, right? he might drop some. He might drop some dimes. He might drop the occasional dime.
Okay, so here's my thought on preseason, and you can tell me if I need to reevaluate. But I think I agree with you generally. Like when you come in here and say, I just watched player X, let's take Stanley Johnson or Julius Randle, for example, and I can see these skills that he has or these things that he does, and I think that he will become a good player. Like I totally agree, especially somebody like you who watches enough basketball that you can kind of discern those things. I don't disagree that you can kind of tease those out in preseason. But what I have a difficult time doing is going from saying, here's a skill that this player is good at, to he's going to reach this threshold, this statistical threshold for fantasy. Like, I think that's a really difficult thing to do, to just say, hey, Julius Randle can pass the ball. That's fine. Like, he has that skill, but it's tough to go from there to say, okay, now we need to change his assist projection. Right. I think that's what becomes kind of difficult in a fantasy, or even like what I expect from him in assists. I think that gets really tricky, and people more often than not make mistakes when they're doing that. They'll watch a highlight reel from preseason and they'll say, wow, he looked really great there. And they won't take everything into context, and then they'll end up overdrafting the guy.
Well, with Randle, he's a guy who I feel like we should be talking about more, because he's going to have opportunity on that Lakers team to play. They're starting him at power forward. So it's really a matter of how many minutes does he actually get? Does he get, just 26 minutes a game, or is he going to be getting 32 minutes a game? Because if he's getting 32 minutes a game, there's a good chance that Julius Randle is going to have more value than what I've given him credit for. I
don't know if I see that coming, like, just because I think he is a much worse fantasy wise. He's a lesser Zach Randolph. Like, I don't think his percentages are going to be very good. I don't think he's going to get enough blocks or steals. At least his college numbers don't suggest he'll get enough blocks or steals to be useful. So really, you're talking about like if he plays 32 minutes, he's like a 15-7 guy with not a whole lot else. I don't care about that in fantasy. That can be a good NBA player, but it's not something I care about it's not someone I want to target in my drafts if that's sort of his ceiling.
No, and I guess what I mean by he'll do more than what I expect is that when I was watching Julius Randle, last summer league, before he got injured originally, and then even watching him a little bit this summer league, and then coming into preseason and hearing Meta World Peace talk about how he's a bull in a china shop, and that's such an apt description of the way that Julius Randle had played up until this preseason. But now this preseason, I'm watching him out there, and he's a little bit more composed. He gets to the spots that he's trying to get to without trying to force his way there. But with all saying that, there's still moments where he is that wild beast where he's just like charging down the court, and he's going to just run people over because he doesn't know how to move in a not straight line. So
right.
I guess I wanted to bring back the hate for him a little bit, because I feel like I've been mean on here, and he's actually been looking pretty decent. People have asked about Bobby Portis' situation in Chicago. My answer there is, like, I don't care how many rebounds this cat gets in the preseason. I don't care how good he looks in the preseason right now. There's no pathway for minutes there for him. Not with Noah healthy, Pau Gasol healthy, and Nikola Mirotic healthy, and now Taj Gibson just came back into action tonight. Like, there's just too many mouths to feed in that front court, and they're already running Nikola Mirotic at small forward to try to make it work in tonight's preseason game. When that team's healthy, I just don't see the minutes for Bobby Portis unless they make a trade.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I totally agree. And
can you see them benching, Joakim Noah? Like, just outright not playing him?
I don't think that will happen, but even if it did, I don't think that leads to minutes for Bobby Portis.
And that's probably
right. Like,
that's just taking it one step deeper. Like, there's so much for him to climb over to get meaningful minutes in the NBA right now.
Yeah, just pretend that Joakim Noah is gonna play 8 minutes a game. You still have, like, between Mirotic, Gasol, and Gibson, you've still got the majority of the 96 minutes that your front court's gonna play. Like, how many minutes is Bobby Portis really going to carve out there? 8 or 10 or something?
I think Bobby Portis' best fantasy value right now is in super deep dynasty leagues where you're stashing players, or in a league where you're anticipating he's going to get traded because the Bulls realize they need a small forward. But Doug McDermott has scored in double-digit points in like every single game so far for the preseason. So that's kind of interesting. Oh, does somebody want? Sorry, I had to nominate a player. Looks like Moutier just went up because I was too slow to put Kobe Bryant up there.
This clock is too long, man. They need to speed this up a little bit.
I'm about to get Moutier for $3. This is going to be the greatest day ever. And that's why this is why I think it's so important to have a queue of, like,
bid on him? No.
Oh shit! Thanks, Mark. You jerk.
You just finished off my team. I was just trying to bid you up on Moutier, but
that's why you don't. That's why you don't mess around, man. You gotta feel pretty great about getting Moutier.
Yeah. There's some other guys I would have rather had. I would have had Porzingis if we're talking about rookies.
Nah, man. You're
Moutier for my team.
Moutier is going to be legit.
Really? I honestly can't even argue with you on Moutier one way or the other. Like, I can't cooperate with you or go against you because I just have no idea.
All right. Is there anybody missing from my queue that I should add over there? I've got 3 slots still to fill. Right now, my team is Victor Oladipo, Gordon Hayward, Draymond Green, Derek Favors, Karl Anthony Towns, Reggie Jackson, Greg Monroe, DeAndre Jordan, Alfred Payton, and Ricky Rubio. That's going to be a lot of fun. I wish we were playing this league. And Mark,
hey, if you hit pass, will it just get like, I think everybody else is out of money except for you.
Ooh.
You could speed this thing up quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't want Marcin Gortat. So
I think as long as you hit pass, it's all good.
I did it. It's
Oh, okay. Somebody else maybe has a couple of bucks. Let me see.
Team Cromer.
They need to pick up one more guy.
Zach LaVine has not looked too hot so far as the starting shooting guard there. Not entirely surprised. It might be really hard for him to play off the ball more this year. It might just take time for him to adjust. It also, he's not the greatest scorer in the world. I mean, he's not the greatest shooter in the world. So
I'm still pretty high on Zach LaVine. Despite the preseason performance, I'm not too worried about him. I would still pick him in the top 100. I think he should go in every draft.
No, I mean that's fair. He should have ample opportunity. Yada yada yada. Oh shit. Oot. Who to draft? Who to draft?
Kyle, do you want me to read off some of the emails I've been getting from folks?
Oh, please do that.
Oh, I won't have to respond to them.
I
love getting emails, but this would be just a good way for us to multitask here.
I nominated Myers Leonard for $1, and I think I'm gonna get him. Oh no! Why did I wait? What happens when you've bid on a player but you hit the pass button? Because I just happened. I still got him.
Yeah, your current bid is in, but if somebody else bids, then you can't. If this Cromer dude would just bid on a player or hit pass, we could get this done a lot faster. All right, that's a custom.
But D'Angelo Russell is up. His kid's growing on me actually, but I don't know. I don't know if it's just because he excelled in the last couple games because he played against Maccabi Haifa, which is an international team, I think from Israel. And I apologize.
Hey, I've got an email for you. This is from David. He says, "Good job, blah blah blah. Any tips on snake drafting in deep, like 16-team leagues? I've only ever played in 12-team or shallower. I guess drafting players that produce points and blocks earlier are even more important, ? I was thinking that if I draft a big with my first pick, I'll go with a guy like Hayward or Oladipo with my second pick. If I draft a wing or a guard with my first pick, I'll go with a big that blocks with the second. What do you guys think? Love, David." He didn't actually say "love, David," but I put that in there.
It was a nice touch. I think it's similar to what we've been talking about in the last couple of podcasts we did, where we were taking guys that are drafted in the first round and saying, who do you pair them with? The key things that stood out to me there from those conversations that we had, Mark, was that I'm definitely going to be looking to get elite points in the first 3 rounds. And in the first 3 rounds, I want to make sure I get an elite blocks guy as well. And it's all about knowing what site you're drafting on more than anything. Go do some mock drafts on ESPN if you're drafting on ESPN. If you're drafting on Yahoo, a lot of the content that we've done is going to be pretty linear because we've talked about a lot of those guys that you can get at good values on Yahoo.
Hey, Kyle, can you hit pass on this guy?
Yes.
If you don't want him. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're cool.
We'll be here for another half hour. There you go. We're going right through. Hey, all right. Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying there. I think he's got a good plan there, based sort of off what we've talked about. I've got another good one for you. It's a dynasty league trade. He's got Drummond and Reggie Jackson, and he's wondering if he should trade them for Kyrie Irving and Greg Monroe.
Drummond and Reggie
Drummond and Jackson for Kyrie Irving and Greg Monroe.
No. Reggie, Andre Drummond and Reggie Jackson. My biggest issue there is that Kyrie Irving is hurt. And then Greg Monroe's like 3 rounds, two. It's like a round or 2 after Andre Drummond in most drafts, if not 3 rounds. So I feel like you're giving up a lot of the value you have there. And Reggie Jackson is a potential. Arguably, he's going to be like a top 20 player if he actually performs the same way he did while with Detroit last season. So, no, I definitely would not consider making that trade. How do you feel about it?
I probably agree. I think you're giving up. I mean, Kyrie's enticing, but I think I would want more value to give up on the 2 guys that you're giving up.
Yeah, exactly. And I just
all right, we're finished up here. Looks like
Kyrie is going to give you like 5 assists a game, 5 or 6 assists a game. Reggie Jackson is going to give you somewhere between 7.5 and 9.5. possibly as high as 10 if he's playing enough minutes. And if the team plays the same way they played last season when they didn't have Greg Monroe. So I just think what Reggie Jackson can provide you is going to be better overall than what Kyrie Irving, who's coming back from injury, might be able to provide you. There's things that scare me about Reggie Jackson for rotisserie leagues a little bit. Is he going to shoot a good enough field goal percentage? I think he will for the point guard slot. Is he going to have too many turnovers? I'm not too worried about that. But it's things you got to keep in mind in 9-cat leagues. You're right, Mark. This is all finished up. My team's filled up. I guess I'll just add on the final couple guys I already ran through earlier. All the players I had down to Ricky Rubio. The final 3 players that I added were Myers Leonard at $1, Otto Porter at $2, and Jahlil Okafor at $1. I ended up having $15 left over. So that sucks. But I got players that I wanted to build a team that I wanted. I do hate having money.
Yeah, but with that $15, wouldn't you love to take like Victor Oladipo and turn him into, I don't know, Kevin Durant, or I don't know what's possible, but like, don't you kind of wish you would have spent that money earlier on?
I'm not going to obsess over it in this draft because we were in a mock draft. We ended up having to
draft that we were talking about.
We had to contend with the bots.
I don't blame you at all. So all I'm saying is, like, if this was a real situation,
I won't. It depends. Like, did you fill up your team? Because the thing is, Alfred Payton at $6 should have cost more. Greg Monroe should have cost more than $6. Ricky Rubio should have cost more than $4. Myers Leonard, Otto Porter, Jahlil Okafor, all those guys should have cost more money. Karl Anthony Towns should have cost more than $11. So I got everybody at value. I filled up my team. Regardless of the circumstance, I can't really feel bad about the fact that I have $15 there. Am I a little bit pissed just because I could have turned Victor Oladipo into, Paul George? That pisses me off.
Yeah, yes. Or something. Yeah, something like that. Which again is a good reason to like give people to. I'm certainly not trying to criticize you. I think you have a great looking team. I'm just trying to say there's those times early in the draft, I think, where we all go through this, where we're like, should I spend the extra $1 or not? I really want this guy. And I think the point is, if you really want the guy, pay the extra $1 or $2, because the worst thing that you would happen is, what if you don't pay the extra $1 or $2 for the guy that you really want, and then you have $1 or $2 left at the end of the draft, and you're like,
I think the difficulty,
that wasn't the exact value that the guy was on my list. And so all I'm saying is, if there's a guy you really, really want, go get him. Like, that's what auctions are all about.
No, that's fair. I mean, I think I like having just one of the things that's killer about auctions is you just have the opportunity, even just having the opportunity to say, if I want Anthony Davis, I can get him. Like, having the right of refusal on players by saying, you know what, that's too high for me. It just feels better when you finish constructing your team. Also, you can put together some amazing freaking teams. Why don't we look at your team? And you can run down all the guys that you drafted, Mark.
Oh, okay. So is my team up?
Yeah, I pulled yours up.
Can you bring them? I have not seen them. Oh, you're looking over there. Okay, so I've got Michael Carter-Williams, Eric Bledsoe, Paul George, Markieff Morris, Andre Drummond, John Wall, Andrew Wiggins, Tyreek Evans, Kyrie Irving, Mike Conley, Trevor Ariza, Robert Covington, Emmanuel Mudiay.
Were you thinking much about the composition of your team or how all the stats were coming together, or were you just more focused on how much you were spending on guys?
If this were a real draft, I would have focused a little more on the composition. Like I said, I would have come in with a kind of a charted out, these are the guys that I want to spend my money on. Here, I was more focused on just getting value a little bit, because we were, it's hard to do two things at once. Tried to like talk through the draft and do it. So I think my team's probably a little guard heavy, but I do think I can use that to my advantage, right? Like, maybe I end up punting. I could trade Drummond maybe and just go with like an all out guard lineup and like try to win those 5 categories. Because I do think I got enough points. Should be good in steals. I should be good in 3-pointers. I'm probably, if I get rid of Drummond, I'm probably really good in free throws. And so and assists. So, I think there's 5 categories that I can build around.
Yeah, I don't know how you would lose assists ever. Michael Carter-Williams, John Wall, Eric Bledsoe, Tyreek Evans, Kyrie Irving, Mike Conley, Emmanuel Mudiay. You will never lose assists. That's for sure.
So it's not like the punt strategy exactly that we set up, but I think I can build a team that wins 5 categories almost every week with this team. So I'm happy about that.
Yep. And that's cool. That's something that, we talk about our suggested head-to-head strategy a lot and everything, the punt strategy. But as Mark has brought up, as we talked about more in some of the earlier podcast episodes, it really just matters that you are focusing on a certain set of categories that kind of coincide with one another so that you're giving yourself a set of rankings that is built to give you an advantage against everybody else.
Yep.
We're not really on board with the idea of trying to win every single category every week. I mean, I don't even consider that in my head-to-head leagues anymore. Do you consider doing that at all, Mark? Or
I'll tell you, the one time that I've done it in a head-to-head league was in a dynasty league, and I did it just because, first of all, there wasn't a lot of other people punting, and I could tell that pretty quickly, and so I wasn't worried about somebody else taking advantage of the punt. But also, just as you're doing long-term like team builds and keeping track of good value players, it is a little bit restrictive to have a punt strategy, because what if a good player comes along that doesn't fit your punt strategy? Then you kind of don't know what to do with them. So in this dynasty league, I only punted turnovers. I only punted 1 category rather than like 2 or 3. And I just said, I'm going to try to go for everything. I'm going to leave all my options open. But in a 1-year league, I would always, every time, no matter what, have a punt strategy that includes punting at least 2 or 3 categories.
Agreed. I do the same thing. Oh man, it's always fun afterwards to look through all the players that are still available and think what may have been. All right, so Mark, do you have anything else that you want to share? Any other thoughts?
No, so this was fun.
Cool. Thank you for watching, everybody. This has been the Daily Fantasy Basketball Podcast. You can find Mark and I's work on the Daily Fantasy or dailyfantasybasketballpodcast.com. If you enjoy this show, please go to iTunes, rate and review it, comment on YouTube if you're watching there. Add a review to any of the different podcast apps that you may be using, please. If you really enjoy our content, if you're using our rankings and things like that and you want to make a donation, there's a PayPal donate button on the website that you can go use. Big ups and thanks to everybody who's been contributing lately. I've got a long list of people that I need to run down later, but like we've got new logos and things like that going on. Let us know what you think of all this stuff, because we do enjoy the feedback. We appreciate the feedback and we do take it to heart. So thank you to everybody who's been helping out with stuff. Luke, Mike, you know who you are. And we'll get to know you better once we get you guys into some of the listener leagues, which we're going to start talking about more starting tomorrow. So anyways, thank you very much. Have a great night, everybody. Our theme song is Happiness is All the Rage by The Promise Ring. Have a great day. We love you. Bye-bye.